Songs are prayers, mantras for becoming, anthemic heirlooms and portals to our deepest truth. Songs are my favorite way to connect with people and their stories. My name is Hope Littwin, and this is Three Songs Podcast, a place to excavate your story through the songs that raised you. Mary Lattimore is a harpist and composer who travels the world sharing her gifts. She visited the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California while I was there, and we connected so beautifully. We watched the sunrise from the hot springs and talked about life and music and humanity. She is such a generous artist and human. I was so moved by her steadfast commitment to build a more gentle world. I hope you enjoy this episode of Three Songs Podcast with the very magical Mary Lattimore. That felt like a really deep savasana or something. Like, felt like I was inside of a wave.
Oh, yeah. I know. I feel like because we're right by the ocean, just being able to look out at the ocean and listen to that song,
it makes a lot more sense.
It's really gorgeous.
I also had this vision of you in, like, just from your concert last night, fresh in my mind, like, kind of like surrounded by chimes, like in this
cool.
I was like, oh, someone needs to make like a little, not a piece of armor, but like a little thing that like surrounds you, that's like your little cocoon when you play, that like has like chimes where you could just like reach up and like sweep them. It's like you need like your own like mermaid cove. It's like someone make this item.
That's funny.
Yeah. A sculpture.
Yeah, I love it. I used to have some of those chimes, you know, the chimes that you go like that. But I gave them to my good friend Juliana Barwick, who's also a musician. She's like, I always wanted some of those chimes, and I feel like when somebody's like, I always wanted that, when you have it, just give it to them.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
If you don't feel attached to it sentimentally, I just bought them off the internet, you know, so I gave them to her. But now I'm like, I need some.
Okay, we'll get you some chimes. I do that with clothes a lot. Someone's like, I like your jacket. I'm like,
yeah,
it's fun.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool to surprise them.
Catches people off guard too.
Yeah.
Wow. What do you hear? I mean, The Cure is like, it makes a lot of sense. Listening to your concert last night and then hearing The Cure now, I'm like,
that's the ultimate compliment in my mind.
The synapses are firing.
Yeah, they're my very favorite band. And that song starts my favorite record of theirs, and so I feel like it's just such a beautiful start to such a gorgeous record. You know, it starts with those chimey sounds, and then it kind of blasts you. Yeah, it's really, it feels very immersive in a way too.
And like dream world.
Yeah, swimming around in it for sure.
Yeah. I know you told me if you were going to start a festival and have like 3 headliners. Tell me again the 3 headliners you would.
I mean, one was definitely The Cure, the top. Brian Eno, if he would ever play my festival, I would love to host him.
Consider it done.
I can't remember who the third one was going to be. You know, I'm thinking a lot about Georgia Kelly just because we're here. And she's the beautiful new age harpist. And so maybe she would be my third one. I don't know. I think it probably depends on the environment. If it were here, she would be great, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah. What about yours?
Festival? I think a lot about like what does the world need right now? You know, I was telling the story last night about someone who like was given a commission for an orchestra piece and was like, actually, what if we pull out the seats, put beds in, and like do night music for people to relax to, because what people most need is like a sense of rest. And I think I tend to think a little bit more conceptually when people ask me to do work. And in some ways it gives me like existential dread, like kind of all the time, because it's never so cut and dry of like, write this piece for a string quartet for 4 strings and make string music for string instruments. You know, I'm always just like, what does the world need? And how can I like see the bigger puzzle? And then what is like the juice that I personally feel I can offer? Like, what's my mission and how does that meet your mission? You know, I overthink it. And it's fun for me because I love puzzles, but but yeah, I think it's like the job of an artist is not what we think it is, especially in capitalism. It's just not what we have decided it is. Like, that's not the task. And I'm sure you probably experience that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, troubadour life.
You do what you can, for sure.
What do you think the task is?
My task?
Yeah. Like, people pay you, they're like, Mary, come bring your harp and do concerts. But what's actually happening? Alchemy?
I don't know. I don't know. For me, it's catharsis, and for other people, I think I feel like it's kind of like an exorcism in a way. You know, just get it out. You know, get out like collective
exorcism.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit like that, where it's like, oh man, these songs I remember myself when I wrote them. You know, each one is like a little diary. And so it's like to play them live and to expand upon them improvisatorily. I feel like it's just like, it might be my version of what we were talking about, the male rage, you know, a therapeutic male rage exorcism, but it's like a gentle version of that. Yeah. It's like very, you know, you get out of your system, but also I think people who are listening, I mean, I have had a lot of people say that they have cried, you know, not only after this performance, but like, you know, for years now. And I think that harp just really strikes a chord with people. You know, I think the sound, the timbre of the instrument just really like, it hits something in people that makes them feel emotional, or like,
it's the soft power.
Maybe. Did you hear the woman talking about the brown note last night?
Yeah,
that was so funny. And she was like, you found the tear note.
The tear note.
She's like, it's not the brown note, but she's like, it was one note you kept hitting, and it brought me to tears every time you would hit that one string. And she's like, that's the tear note. I'm like, oh wow, that's so cool. I wonder which note it is.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's personal. So it's like, depending on your own energy centers, like sound can hit different, just kind of like rooms have different resonant frequencies, where like a C in this room gets super reverberated, like maybe in different bodies or in different days and different states, you kind of have that. Yeah. And for people's reference, I was like bad talking Gestalt therapy. I feel like it just turns into like male rage, like I don't know. Right now, I'm just really annoyed with it. So I feel like we were having a conversation in the hot tubs of like, well, what if the antidote to that is just like more gentleness? You said something really beautiful, actually. You were like, you're desperate for a more gentle world. Is that something like that?
I'm begging for it.
You're begging for a more gentle world. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, finding the tear note. It's just like, I think more people should just let it out. As far as like crying goes, I think that's probably why I gravitate towards The Cure too, is like that's the music that has made me just like cry in the best way. You know?
It kind of like unzips your heart and lets this like kind of molassesy flood kind of.
Yeah, and you can feel it. It's like,
yeah, you feel held too.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like, I guess when I was bad talking Gestalt therapy, I just kind of felt like it creates like a sense of, or maybe you had framed it this way, where you're like, you know, I don't know how much more space I want to make to like hold violence, because I was talking about like, oh, it's kind of like, maybe it's more immersion therapy. Like I can hold, like when people are in a state of violence, I can like hold it without reacting so much. And I think your beautiful response was like, I don't want to make more space for that.
I don't want to indulge it.
I don't want to indulge it. That's what you said. Yeah.
I mean, I am not an expert on that, but that's my
immediate.
That's my immediate reaction. Is like, and you said, you were like, there are enough. You know, we hear about male rage every day. You know, in every news article, every like war declaration, every school shooting, every mall shooting,
right?
Every like invading the Capitol or whatever. Like I just feel like
we've made space for that.
There's plenty of space for it. It's not a taboo at all to express that.
Right.
But maybe male tears.
Ooh.
Let's bring that. I don't know. I wanna promote that, I guess.
Yeah.
More.
With the tear note.
Yeah, the tear note. Yeah. New music is good for that, right? Just like making you feel stuff.
And like the soft power, like that has been this last year, that has been my main lesson, just in some of the plant medicine ceremonies I've done and some of my own like deep therapeutic works. It's not the lesson I wanted, honestly, because I feel like kind of like a fierce warrior type, where I'm like, let me hit him. But the lesson that like kept coming to me was like, no, softer, gentler. I was like, okay, fine.
But it just doesn't feel like, I think there's like a misunderstanding of like, this is not a powerful enough response to like match. Like there's a quote that I really love. It's like, artists have to learn to create at the same level that society has the capacity to destroy.
Oh, wow.
And so I think I took that in my mind as like, however intensely you meet me, I have to meet you at least just as intensely to even the playing field, but maybe not realizing that like intensity doesn't mean louder. Intensity doesn't mean more shocking.
Yeah.
You know, it can mean softer.
Yeah.
It could, yeah.
Enter
Mary Lattimore.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's something's happening. I don't know. I think it's also I'm such a music listener, you know, and I feel like if you're such a listener, then the stuff that you make isn't, you know, kind of you can bring what you listen to, that feeling, to your listeners, you know. I think you absorb that heartache, kind of that heart-aching feeling that you get from listening to stuff. You absorb that, and then maybe you incorporate that into your own playing sometimes.
Like a frequency kind of. It's like a tuning, a higher, attunement.
Maybe, yeah.
I just had an image of like a big boss in like a video game style, like intense boss, and they're like, bring in your most like equipped warrior to fight this boss. It's just like Mary with a harp appears and just like starts playing, and then it's like lulled into a deep cry and then like melts in its own tears and is dissolved.
A deep cry, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to play another one?
Sure.
My favorite Cure song is Friday, I'm in Love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's the first one I heard. Okay, I'm going to play a song now by a friend of mine, but that I've collaborated with a lot. But this song is on my mind because,
that'd be a great title for a song. The song is on my mind.
Okay, here it is.
1, 2, 3, 4.
music.
Yeah, it's a great song, right?
Wow.
It makes me really emo. I have my friend Rob passed away, and he sings on that song. So I'm like, oh man, he's been on my mind a lot. So that's why I chose that song. But I didn't mean to be crying on a podcast.
Oh, that's amazing.
The tear note.
Yeah. Tell me more about this person who inspired
Yeah,
you.
my friend Rob. He was singing like the backing vocals. He was in Kurt's band for a long time, and we were buds. And he's beautiful guitar player, synth player, lots of different instruments, and singing. Like, I feel like that's one of the only times I ever heard him sing on a recording, and I was like, who sang these backing vocals? And Kurt's manager, my friend, was like, that's Rob. I was like, whoa, this is Rob's song. And I texted him immediately. I was like, oh, it sounds so cool. Your voices sound so cool together.
Is he kind of free spirit?
He was, he's like a family guy, He had 2 kids and a wife, but he passed away with cancer. It was really sad. So, I don't know. I love that song, though. And I feel like, I just love how Kurt writes. He and I have played together a bunch and toured together and stuff.
It's so authentic.
Yeah, that's his whole style. Is just like really him, personal.
And like wherever there's no like outward structure that can hold him. It sounds like, this is my own interpretation, like there's no outward structure that can convince him against his own urges or his own like intuitive sense,
Yeah.
Which I love, because I would rather the artist be the leader than like the structure be the leader, because it's like, well, I want to know what your intuition is telling you.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be worried about losing me, and so then you kind of put it in more organized boxes in case I'm not understanding. I'm like, no, I would rather not understand but follow you through the woods, as long as you're like, I guess the analogy I give a lot is, it's like I'll give you my time and my trust to like take me through to the other side, even if it's through dark, confusing places, as long as I know you're like a trusty guide.
Yeah.
I would rather you take me on a journey that's like kind of confusing, than
yeah, totally. I mean, lyrically, he's such a good lyricist. The way he always like twists words around like wordplay, know, and it's really important. And I think, and like, I don't know, it's really fun to play with him too, because you don't know, like, you have to learn his language a little bit. You know? It's really cool.
Did you guys tour together?
We did, and he was the first person that I recorded with ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
When was that?
That was 2009 or 10, something like that.
Was this like straight out of conservatory?
I lived in Vienna after I went to conservatory, and then I moved to Philly just kind of on a whim with a friend, and I met Kurt there. At a party, I think, or I saw him at the post office too. I remember. And then he found out I played harp, and he's like, "Why don't you try to add something to my record?" And so I did. I was scared, but I did it. And then he took me on my first tour ever.
That's
as
so cool.
Part of his band, and we've been good friends ever since. And it's funny, we've been talking this weekend, like texting, and then I had to think of Rob because his wife made a very beautiful post about him, and Christmas, like the first Christmas without him and stuff. So I feel like this has been a good weekend for, I don't know, thinking about friendship and like just, that's, Kurt is probably one of my oldest friends, like the longest friendships that I've had. So kind of like reappreciating that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I hold your hand?
That's so emo Mary.
Yeah. I think there's something special about the life of like a troubadour or musician, or kind of like, I don't know, it's like a wandering alchemist. Like I feel like musicians are really powerful community builders, like some of the most potent, and it's in this almost unseen way. I mean, people see it, but I don't think there's a surface understanding of what's occurring, and then there's what's really happening underneath.
Yeah.
And to me, I keep seeing, part of the reason I have this podcast is I was trying to explain, like, there's like a weaving that I feel like I'm noticing happening, where I'm trying to like give a little bit more word or vision to like how I see the network of musicians who are just kind of like these scattered troubadours that they build a deep sense of community, but in a really vast space.
Yeah.
And then for them, building their own network of connection is very complex. And it's, you know, we have the like, we were talking about like, we both have siblings that have like had children and like settled down more, and they have like a more obvious sense of what structure and stability and like network and community looks like. But I think for specifically musicians, especially who are like touring a lot, it's just a different thing. But I think especially with like globalization, it's so needed, and it's so I don't know, it's like our people are very important to like hone in and keep close, but we're all kind of like effervescent or ephemeral creatures too. And like the nature of being someone who can like wield that gift, it's kind of like a little bit shamanistic, this gift. It means that like you can't be tied down. And so like, what does it mean to have a bunch of beautiful souls who can't be tied down, who all connect with each other deeply? And like, it's like, okay, we need new words or like new ways to talk about what's happening, why it's so valuable. I mean, I think people have a sense of it, but I don't know. I think about this a lot with my own friends, or, you know, if you're touring like 200 to 300 days out of the year. That's like most of your life, but there's still care and connection, and then moments where you have 3 months together all the time every day. And I don't know.
That's such that's a cool way to put it, for sure. When you meet a like-minded musician, you're like, oh, you're my people, you know, finding your people. You know, in the green room of some music festival or something like that, and you're like, oh yeah. Or, I don't know, that's why residencies are so cool too, you know, like music residencies or art residencies, where it's like, oh yeah, these are my people, and we're all together in this little place for only a moment in time, because everybody's going to go back. They're separate tours and they're separate worlds and stuff, but it's all very fleeting.
There's a beautiful Thich Nhat Hanh quote. He's like, love in a way where the person you love feels free. And I feel like that about the artist connection. It's like, I want you so close and I want you to be so free. And that's like very confusing.
I know. It's hard to wrap your head around that, you know, and it's hard to, like, it's easy to say that maybe, and it's harder to do it. To feel that way, you know, sincerely. I think so.
Do you feel like music in that way is kind of like an ephemeral friend too? Like when melodies are coming to you, or when you're working with songs, does it feel similar, where it's like very light touch?
No, it's like the closest best friend that you can have.
Say more!
In my mind. I don't know. I just feel like my harp and the songs that I write, you know, are very like companions to me, you know, because you take them with you everywhere. And you play them over and over and over again. But the ephemeral part is the improvisation, you know, like you have the structure, and that is your companion, where you can really rely on, okay, I know the chords, you know, I know how the melody is supposed to sing in your mind, but then you can like put this lacy like
stardust,
beautiful spider webby, you know, like you can kind of decorate it, adorn it, you know, in this way. Embroidery. I don't know. I really like the fact that you can't really make a mistake with your own song, you know, in my mind. It's like, if you know the chords, and if you play a half step off, then you know how to get back to it, you know. It's all just the fun part are the happy accidents, you know, where you stray a little bit and then you get back to the root of it, you know.
Who are some of your like musical deep friendships?
I mean, Juliana Barwick, who I mentioned before, is a deep friend of mine. She kind of works the same way I do, like solitarily most of the time, and loop based. You know, she's a beautiful singer. I feel like Jonsi from Sigaros is he's one of my very best friends, and he gives those like heart wrenching kind of feelings to me too, and like I feel like he's a musical soulmate where it's just like, oh, you just want to grip it. Yeah, it's so gorgeous. Yeah. His voice and their arrangements and stuff. I don't know. There are a lot of musicians I really admire and love. There are these two guys. They're called Growing, and I've been a fan of theirs forever. And we made a record together and have toured together. And they both play guitars, and I in a more like droney way. And I really love that. It feels like really rich and kaleidoscopic within this droney palette, you know. Yeah, really beautiful. I don't know. What about you?
Musical soulmates? There's so many. Like right now, I'm in school, so I'm, a lot of people are kind of coming in and out, and it's kind of touch and go because people visit for a short time and then leave. So we'll have like moments where I'm like, oh wow, that was like a special moment. But I do this chamber music meditation series at the Princeton Chapel, and I invite different people in and out of this kind of chamber. And part of it is just based on people's schedules, but also just like playing around. I love to improvise as like a meet and greet. And actually, when Laraji came here earlier, before we even spoke, I was just sitting at a table. I was working on this like choir piece on my laptop, and he like brought a guitar down and sat in front of me and didn't say anything, and I just went and got a guitar and sat in front of him. Wow. And we just like started playing and improvising and like writing these songs together, and it was so good. And then when he was done, he just put his guitar back up and walked away, and then I went back to writing my piece. And I was like, I love that language of like improvising with stranger who's willing to like make mistakes, sound goofy, not this kind of thing of like, oh, I'm prepared to like impress, or I'm prepared to like, I don't know. It's just like, yeah. So I feel really lucky that I have the opportunity for, it's like a porousness.
Yeah. That's cool.
So it's not exactly the answer to your question, but that's the thing that comes to mind is like, I think I try to be as porous as possible and like in a state of play as much as possible, and like being in play encourages play. Yeah. And when people are playful, it almost doesn't matter like how good they are at an instrument or whatever. It's like they're open to a synergy.
And like listening, their ears are turned on.
And truly expressing instead of like holding an expectation and then hoping that they meet it. Yeah. It's, I don't know, like the image I got is when I was a little girl in summertime, we would put like slip and slides down or like have wet willies where they like pour water all around like in these like squiggly. Yeah. Do you remember those squiggly and then everyone got bruised knees. Like, everyone got grass stained butts and bruised knees and
but it's what you just like surrender.
Yeah.
The feeling. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. You want to do one more?
Sure.
I should have a better answer to that question at some point, but I think I love the collective fabric of curious improvisers.
Let's see. I wanted to do this one. I'm sure you know it, but this is another sad. It's another sad one.
I love sad songs.
Maybe.
Have you ever written like a funny song?
Never.
I try. And
the Wawa song, but it's not even funny. It's like missing Philly and like, oh, this moment will never happen again.
Right.
This whole symphony is so beautiful. Do you know it? Yeah, I love it so much. You don't have to listen to the whole thing.
John Upshaw is the real deal. Should we just do the whole thing? Or time might maybe we'll.
Yeah, maybe time might be a little tricky, but
I'll put the whole thing in the.
yeah, isn't it beautiful? Oh my gosh, I love it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I keep getting the image of waves.
I
It's
know.
like,
I mean, like this. I think that's why I chose that song or piece. You know.
You have a special connection with the Pacific Ocean, yeah?
I think so. I think all oceans.
Mm-hmm.
The harp and water just kind of go hand in hand somehow in my mind. You know?
Why is that? I feel it's
I
true.
don't know.
It's the mermaid instrument.
Maybe La Mer. You know, it's very Frenchy.
Mm-hmm.
Very Frenchy instrument, impressionist music.
Is that when you fell in love with the harp? Was it like through Ravel and Debussy?
Yeah,
and these French?
definitely.
Yeah.
My mom used to play the first arabesque, you know, the piece. And that's her favorite piece of all time to play. And so she used to play that a lot when I was growing up. And it does sound like water, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I always loved the that kind of stuff.
When you well, I guess your mom plays the harp, so it just was in your entire childhood soundscape.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, is there a moment that your heart knew? Like, that's my life.
I would say more when I guess I did fall in love with the harp when I was going to Eastman or when I was like trying to get into Eastman conservatory. You know, I was playing strictly classical music and I was like, oh, this is really fun to play and to get to see yourself get better at something.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is my thing. I think that I'm pretty good at it. You know, I get to play all these beautiful historic pieces that have been interpreted throughout the ages or whatever. And this is really a fun challenge, and especially to get a good tone and stuff, and like the minutia of getting better and focusing on like tone and technique and all that. But then, I don't know, I fell out of love with it a little bit when I just started to compare myself to all the other harpists in school. And I really wanted a social life, you know, and so I studied abroad in Italy and Austria for a year. And then I came back to Rochester where the school was, and I was like determined to meet friends outside of school. And so that was a game changer for me, like to make friends. I worked at a few record stores, and I worked at the college radio station just to meet friends who were just different, you know, had different interests. And then I lived in Vienna after school, where I rented a harp by the hour to practice, to keep up, you know, to have fun with it, but also to keep up my fingers. And, you know, like when you don't have a lot of money, you're making very small amount of money, like renting a harp for an hour, it's like, you know, $50 an hour or something like that. And so I didn't get that much work done with the harp in those years. But then I moved to Philly and I started playing with Kurt, and I started playing with bands and stuff, and fell back in love with it then.
Yeah, and when I see you play, it's much more, because I know conservatory culture very well, and it's very rare for someone to make this leap into like more contemporary culture, especially more of like the songwriting, like I'm telling my story aspect of it, instead of I'm telling someone, I'm like kind of museum culture, which is still beautiful, like I'm upholding this tradition. But I think really to make the leap of I'm upholding this tradition into I'm expressing my own thoughts and feelings separate from what other people have said, that's a hard leap.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while, you know. It took me writing parts, like the steps were like, okay, I'm writing parts for somebody else's record. I'm writing like a ribbon of a melody that is going to sound tasteful in somebody else's project. And then I started playing music with Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, and he, you know, I played on his record, on one of his records, and then we toured for a couple of years. And he was the one that really introduced me to improvisation. You know, he kind of required it a little bit, not in a jerk way, but it, like playing with him, it was kind of understood that there would be like a jammy section, like an improvised section. And that really opened up my eyes. Like, I think improvisation, a big part of it is confidence, and it's like being told that you're good at it and you're like, oh yeah, that sounded really cool. Like when you hear that from one of your heroes, then it's like, oh, maybe I can do it.
Yeah.
So, and then I went from that to making my own stuff. And yeah, it was kind of an organic progression, but not till later,
Well, I imagine like your initial thirst of like, well, I want to start making friends outside of this mind frame was like the gateway,
it's
to like
social. Yeah, it's social.
Music is social.
Yeah. I know. It is. It's definitely not good to just be in a practice room all the time by yourself, just working on something that's been done a million trillion times before,
Which is kind of an epidemic of our culture too. Like, yeah.
I mean, it's bad for your brain, I think.
Yeah, and for I feel like all the existential dreads I've had, like a lot of them have just been around like being alone too long and like either a practice room or in front of the computer writing music and you're like, wait, but for who? For what purpose? And like, if they were just here, this would go faster too. And like, it's complex territory.
Yeah.
But it's really inspiring to see you. I'm glad I saw your concert last night. It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
And to just like have spent time with you while you're here.
Yeah.
You're like such a generous human being.
Oh man, same with you.
Aww.
Thanks for showing me around.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad you've been here at Big Sur. If you have happy travel, we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have a lot of links to music to send you.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Also, Don Upshot. I'm really obsessed with this theater director, Peter Sellers. Do you know about him?
I just know that actor. Isn't that the name
different
of it
person? Yeah. So there's the Pink Panther guy, Peter Sellers, and then there's an opera director, Peter Sellers. I think he teaches at UCLA now, like theater history or like opera history. Incredible human being. If you ever get the chance to meet him, he staged a lot of new operas and worked with Don Upshaw a lot. That's what made me think of him. He's a really special person that is like deeply in music, deeply in theater, deeply in humanitarian issues, and has the language to speak about all of it. I think that the course that he teaches at UCLA is like one of the students' favorite. It's always packed. But I've heard that he responds to emails. Like if you email him and like ask him about his course or ask him about his work, that he's like deeply responsive.
Oh, interesting.
Something in my head just made this connection through Donna Showers, like, ooh, Mary Lattimore and Peter Sellers. That would be some juicy, whatever comes from that will be good.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I like emailing people out of the blue.
That's true.
Fun.
Like, who did you email?
Astronaut Scott Kelly.
I just went on NASA.com and was like,
no.
NASA at NASA.com.
I think it's like public relations at NASA.com or something like that.
That's amazing.
NASA.gov. I don't know. But it was definitely like a cold email out of the blue.
I love it. Fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of 3 Songs. If you enjoyed this conversation, please consider liking and subscribing to this channel, and remember to turn the notification bell on so that you can be updated when new episodes are published. This is an interactive project aimed at building a meaningful musical community online, so I would love to hear your thoughts and musings or even a song recommendation in the comments below. If you'd like to connect, you can find me on all platforms at Hope Littwin or at hopelitwin.com. And my music is available on Spotify, iTunes, and Bandcamp under my name, Hope Littwin. Peace out.